Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. And if you've been listening to this podcast for the past 5 years, you know exactly who I am. And if you're new to this podcast, I am Cammie Red, your host of the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. And today is going to be a really fun topic. It's one that hits home for many of us, especially you women, financial wellness and the emotional ties that we have to spending. So joining us is Mary Ann Stenquist, founder of Become Unshoppable and a spending coach with a unique approach to helping people regain control of their finances. Now, as Mary Ann's personal journey from battling chronic migraines, depression, and a shopping addiction to achieving financial peace in both is both inspiring and also extremely relatable. So, in this episode, she'll share powerful insights into the emotional and psychological drivers behind spending, as well as practical tools to help you break free from those unhealthy habits and create peace and wealth with the money you already have. Now, if you're ready to become unshoppable and take back control of your financial future, stay tuned. This conversation is packed with wisdom and actionable advice. So I want to welcome to the show Miss Mary Ann Stenquist. And she's going to get all of us women in trouble, especially now around the holiday season. So just let you know, okay?
Fair warning. Well, and I can't be the judge because I've been there and it's a journey. It is so difficult to break the habits of overspending because we're not taught how to do it. We're just taught make a budget and just stop spending. And that doesn't work. It's not a budgeting problem, it's a spending problem. And that's what I realized. And my focus is as a spending coach to help people afford the life they want with the money they already have, which money is usually being spent overspending on things that we don't really care about.
Now, listen, your journey into becoming a spending coach is extremely inspiring. Share with us what led you to create Become Unshoppable.
I It was definitely a journey and I found myself in this addictive cycle of spending and shopping to feel better. And I didn't want to remove shopping completely. It's something that I truly enjoy. And but I felt like there's no way I can have shopping in my life because it's 0 to 100. I can't manage that. And it's the same along the lines with dieting. I didn't want to remove sugar completely. I want to coexist with it. It's something I
Mhm.
do enjoy. And I was at a point in my life where I didn't want to restrict myself anymore. I had been restricting myself for a long time. And I was like, no, I want to enjoy my life, but with boundaries. And so that's really where I started this journey of how do I become unshoppable? How do I overcome the urge to shop so that it's a controlled desire? I have boundaries. I can enjoy it without that spend and guilt cycle that we go through.
Okay, okay. Now I can definitely understand that. Now you've been open about struggling with a shopping addiction during a particular difficult time in your life. What was the turning point that made you decide to regain control of your finances?
You would think that it would be like a rock bottom or like a number or like being in the red zone of our checking account, but it wasn't. It was actually feeling like I wanted to afford massages weekly. I wanted to afford childcare. I wanted to afford help around the house. I was drowning. And that's really what the turning point was. It was, I want those things more than I want the handbag, more than I want the stylish blouse that I'm going to buy and put in my closet and never wear. And that's really what almost changed it overnight because that desire switched from material things to things that were attainable, that I could actually put my money toward and get results. Whereas that fantasy item we're looking for, it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
We can't find it and it's not bought in a store. It's found within ourselves and what we truly want.
I can so understand that in so many ways. I totally overstand it to be exact. Now, how did you overcome your shopping addiction? Well, how did overcoming your shopping addiction impact other areas of your life, like your health, your relationship, your mental well-being?
It was a domino effect for the better. It was really like a turning point where I felt empowered that if I could take control of a habit that had run my life for 5 years, this is empowering. This is the power is within us right now. We can change. And unfortunately, I don't think that message is, it comes across. It comes across as it's this force that's beyond us, but it's not. It was really empowering to realize if I can turn that around, I can turn my whole life around and I can create the life I want. But I'll say, I mean, I'm not 100% perfect. Like, it's a journey. Once you have those tendencies, it's really hard to just turn them off. But that's the empowering thing is once you have the desire and then once you have the tools to get yourself back on track, it's manageable.
Okay. Now, financial peace is a major focus for you. How has achieving financial peace changed your outlook on life and your goals?
Really, that I can afford the life I want with the money I already have because I can redirect that money that was being spent unintentionally on things I didn't care about toward things I care about. And I am so passionate about my business. I'm so passionate about helping women. And that drive makes those material things seem really insignificant and seem really like not as important. And for others, it's experiences, it's vacations. And if you have that motivating desire in your mind, that will trump all desires. And
Okay.
we need to find something that
That motivates.
motivates us when things are
Yeah.
hard.
Okay. Now, what role has progression rather than perfection played in your own journey towards financial wellness?
It really is understanding that it's not a destination, it's a journey. And I I've realized about myself that shopping will always be a temptation. And if I do buy something that I wasn't planning on, I recognize it and I don't let myself spiral. And that is really important for people to realize that you have to have the tools to pick yourself back up because you will regress, but you won't relapse if you have the tools necessary to remain and stay unshoppable.
Okay. Now, what has been the most rewarding part of overcoming your shopping addiction and creating a healthy relationship with money for you?
It has been all things not financial, to be honest. It
Okay.
has been regaining time with my family, with my loved ones, regaining control over my life. We focus so much on what shopping gives us, but shopping takes a lot away. It comes at the expense of other things. And it's easy to see the numerical financial impact, but we don't always see the time we spend away from family, from our loved ones, from our friendships. We don't see, we're not aware of all the times we spend thinking about, ooh, what can I buy? Or returning the things that you buy and feeling that guilt.
Yeah.
And once you're out of that, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like I can choose to live the life I want. I don't have to be bound to this force that is so beyond me.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you still face some shopping temptations, but you're no longer controlled by them. How do you
Yes.
personally handle those moments of temptation?
I recognize when I'm hyper focused on a specific product topic, I would say. Like
Hmm.
it's not one thing, it's like the category of makeup. And I I got a color analysis done and it was like almost like permission to spend. It was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you look better in these colors." And I thought, "Oh, now everything I have is just not it won't work." Well, that's not true. It was almost like permission to spend. And I recognized that when I was looking at the different blush shades that looked better and instead of like wanting one, I wanted like all of them,
All of
all
them.
10. And I realized, I was like, why am I wanting this blush
Yeah.
so much? Why? It's just blush. It's just makeup. Why? And I've been fine without it for
You
my
haven't
whole
had
life.
it before now. You just found out about it. So yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
why? And it was like, well, to make me feel good, to make me look good. And I was like, well, why don't I feel I look good? Well, it's because I don't feel good on the inside. Well, why
Mhm.
don't I feel good on the inside? And I asked that deeper question. Well, it's because I don't feel really good in my body right now. I've had 2 kids, I've had chronic health issues, and I'm trying to get back to where I want to be, but I'm not there yet. And it's easier to buy blush than it is to buy a whole new way of life.
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
got
then and then I realized, so if I wanted the blush to make me feel confident, then I would have to wear that blush 24/7 in order to feel confident.
yes.
That doesn't make sense. It does in the moment, we think it does, but it
But
really
and
doesn't.
the other piece is you can't wear all 10 blush colors at the same time.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And so it's like, so what do I need to do to get that need met? It was like, well, it's not buying the blush. It's by working on myself
Yeah.
and finding the things I do love about myself and capitalizing on my strengths. And really getting to the deeper underlying issue. Why, and if it's not blush or makeup, maybe it's clothes or maybe it's exercise equipment. Whatever it is, ask yourself why, and most of the time, it won't be the item. It's because you're searching for something that's within yourself that you feel out of control, that you can't obtain easily. But the things that you can't obtain easily are the most rewarding and the things that will get you fulfillment, eternal fulfillment more than any object can buy.
I understand that. Now, in what ways has your journey as a spending coach helped you grow personally?
It's really challenged me to have have a drive that's beyond me and that can help so many people, because it honestly keeps me accountable
Okay.
for my decisions. And it's like, if I am a spending coach and I am helping people, then I need to keep myself accountable in what I buy. And it's also allowed me to take my pitfalls and use them as teaching points, because I know that people will struggle with those same pitfalls. And it's easy to get discouraged, like, oh, I haven't figured it out, I'm not perfect, I'm not totally unchoppable. But that's the empowering part, because I want people to realize that I'm getting through these struggles just like them,
Yeah.
and I'm a few steps ahead of them to kind of coach them through what worked for me. And that's the challenge I found with finding financial experts and listening to people, is they're almost on the other side completely, and they don't remember how hard it was to say no to things, how hard it was to say no to those impulse buys. They just say, "Well, don't buy them. That's stupid." And that's really minimizing and degrading when you're in the struggle. It's like, "No, that's what I really want." And
Mhm.
so I try to look at it as a form of empowerment for my listeners and for people I educate, because it's like, I'm still figuring it out, but I will do everything I can to help you figure it out too.
Okay. Now, you help people understand the drivers behind their urge to shop. What are some common emotional triggers you see in your clients?
I see a lot of insecurity, and depression is a huge motivator, feelings of sadness, even if it's not like a clinical depression, it's feeling sad, feeling bored,
Mhm.
feeling like you have lost a sense of purpose. And that's how I felt. I went from working full time as a speech language pathologist to being a stay-at-home mom, and I lost my sense of identity. And I was trying to find it in things, material things. I was trying to find it in what I bought to represent the life that I had lost. And I really just I think that emotions, especially negative ones, play
Mhm.
a huge role in what drives us to shop. It's like, What are we running to, but what are we running away from? It's usually that uncomfortable emotion, something we don't want to deal with.
I totally get that. And that's how we actually do with a lot of addictions and triggers. It's something we don't want to deal with. Now, what are some simple tools or strategies you teach to help clients become unshoppable and take control of their spending?
I encourage people to take a pause before they buy something, to pause. They see something they want, and it's just ask yourself a few questions to break that knee jerk reaction of, I see it, I want it, I buy it. It's, do I have a need for that item right now? Now, that's tricky because it's like you can justify any need. You can justify, oh, I need that. But instead of do I need it, it's can I live without it?
Ah,
And then another question is, do I have a use for that item right now? Not in a few months when I'm the size I want, not when I start up crafting and sewing. It's, do I have a use for it right now? And then does my lifestyle reflect that item and what it takes? I found myself, I've probably purchased 3 hair tools that require time in the mornings to do, to curl my hair, to get that amazing look that I see all the time and all around me. But my lifestyle doesn't reflect
you
that.
know that, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't, I'm not in the stage of that life and having that time in the morning. I've got 2 young kids, health issues, a business, all the things. So does your life reflect that item, or is it that fantasy, like, hypothetical version that you wanna be, that you can achieve, but start start making those time allowances. If it's an item that will take up time, see if you actually have time to buy that item. And there's a lot of fear about, if I don't buy it, I'll never get it again. Well, with the internet, it's almost non-existent. It really is. The fear of not finding that item again is really unlikely. And so we have to sit and realize, what's the worst that can happen if I don't buy this item? You get it in a few months when you actually have proven to yourself that you need it, then
Or
you're
you
not.
don't buy it at all because you don't really need it at all.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And we think, "Oh, but I'll miss out on this deal. It's $20 off, it's half
That's
off."
it.
So
I love it when people say that to me because I say, "Well, if you miss the deal, that means you get to keep your money."
mhm, yep. Yeah, "I'm saving this much." Well, you could spend 0 and save double.
Yeah.
So,
Alright. For what advice would you give someone who's feeling overwhelmed by their spending habits but don't know where to start?
I would say start with, the why are you feeling overwhelmed? And it usually is you're feeling guilty about what you are doing. And the emotion of guilt, it keeps us stuck because we feel ashamed. We don't know where to start. And it's easy to just either stay stagnant, or it's easy to just go the opposite direction and just keep spending and overspend to compensate for that emotion. But I like to think of, the feeling of guilt is actually an indicator that what you're doing does not align with your values.
Yeah,
And I love that so much more than shame, because guilt is a feeling that you get, that you don't dwell on it. You think, what I'm doing doesn't align with my values. So what do I need to change in order to align with my values?
yeah.
That's so much more empowering than that shame cycle that we get in.
Now
And so don't get caught in that, like, that shame cycle, because you simply don't have the tools. A budget didn't help me because I didn't have a budgeting problem, I had a spending problem.
right.
And so you just don't have the tools and you're not aware. And so it's not 100% your fault.
Okay, so you mentioned guilt. For listeners who struggle with guilt after shopping, what are some practical steps they can actually take to break free from that cycle?
I would say to recognize that what you bought in the moment, it actually, you had a good reason. You
Mhm.
had, even if it was a rational thought, like a rationalization of, "Well, I deserve it." you probably do deserve it. But is that really going to get you that lasting fulfillment? Probably not.
No.
And so recognizing that there's an element of, yeah, I really did want it and there's a reason I wanted it. But recognizing that that is not going to be achieved with the item. It's meeting the need that that item represents. And I found that I was buying a lot of clothing and accessories, items for appearance. And it was because I wanted to portray this image of myself as that successful career woman that I used to be, that I was before kids, before chronic migraines. And once I recognized that, I was like, "Oh, wow. I don't need all those things. I want the characteristics of a businesswoman to be successful in my life, not to look successful on the outside." And so recognizing that there's an element, there's a reason why you bought it,
Hmm.
and trying to uncover that reason so that you don't keep trying to buy it because that item isn't going to satisfy it. You're going to keep buying for that need that's not being met.
I love that. I love it. So, shopping is often seen as a quick fix for stress or boredom, like you said earlier. How do you help clients replace this habit with healthier coping mechanisms?
I really help people to recognize what are they looking for. And this was actually my 5-year-old daughter. Was I was scrolling my phone, doom scrolling. It was just on Facebook, and she comes in and she kind of sits down next to me and she goes, "What are you looking for?" And I was like, "What am I looking for?" It's not going to be found on Facebook. And then we're
Mhm.
surprised when we buy something on Facebook. It's like, well, we went there feeling down and then someone promised us a quick fix. That's an easy yes. That's an easy, oh yeah, I want that. And so recognizing that what are you looking for? It won't be found in the pantry. It won't be found on your phone or on the computer shopping online or in a store. It's going to be found making connections with friends, and it's going to be found putting energy and time investing in yourself, not necessarily money. It's usually time and energy and things that you want to develop, like skills. Really having that clear idea of what am I looking for and what do I want with my life? If in 10 years, where do I want to be? In 5 years or next year, where do I want to be? And is this going to get me there?
Oh, those are really good questions. I'm not an impulse buyer, so I make salespeople and people in the store really angry at me sometimes because I literally think about it for days, and I have to ask myself: Is it something that I need right now? Is it something that I'm going to need in the next couple of weeks? Is it something that I'm going to need in a month? Will it be here in a month when I decide? And just like you said, even if it's not in the store, you can find it on Amazon. So if you need it, you'll end up eventually getting it, but you don't have to buy it right there in that moment.
Right. And you can 2 other things, you can admire something without buying it and without
Yeah.
owning it. You really can. And wait until you actually need it. There's this fear that, well, what if I don't have it? If I don't
And then
what if
you
yeah,
didn't
what
have
if
it
I don't have it?
before. So
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. And to be honest, I think a little bit of that comes with COVID, like, there was that shortage, and it was
yep,
that
yep,
fear of not having it when you need it, and so now it's like, well, I don't wanna go through that again, but walking yourself through what's the worst that could happen, I go without it until I actually need it,
yep,
and that saved me a lot of money and a lot of clutter because I wait until I actually need it, and we don't need to overbuy everything. We don't need to overstock everything. We have resources available, and I've found that the items that I have overstocked in my storage necessities, I've ended up giving away
I was
because
just
I
gonna
changed
say
my
you didn't
mind.
really need it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I changed my mind on I didn't like that brand. That smell really gets to me, or, it's not really working with my clothes, and we don't really allow ourselves that freedom of changing if we have, like, 10 items stocked in our storage.
That's right, because you got to use them all before you can
Yeah,
change it. Yeah.
yep.
All right. So you emphasize using the money people already have to create financial peace. How do you help your clients shift their mindset to focus on this?
recognizing that little expenses do add up, that it's those impulsive purchases that
Mhm.
seem insignificant, but it's the habit. And that's really what I focus on is I'm not concerned with the amount, I'm concerned with the habits. We're looking at not how much you spent, but why you spent, why you bought that. And it happens at the grocery store. I mean, you can start there and just see what items end up in your cart that you weren't planning for, and then ask why.
You
It's like,
listen,
why?
Walmart is good for that. Do you
Mhm.
understand me? Like, walking in Walmart is a trap, and I think I
Yeah.
heard a guy say this. He was like, is there anything you need me to do before I go to Walmart?" And they bend me over and take everything from me. And I was like, "At least I'm not the only one that feels like when you walk in Walmart, there's so many things that you didn't think you needed that you
Yes.
see that you needed." Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, don't walk into a store, don't go online thinking that the store will manifest to you what you need, because boy, it will manifest.
It'll manifest
It
everything.
will manifest everything, and you'll think, "Oh, I do need that. Oh, I do need that." And especially with the Black Friday and the sales, I mean, go with an idea of what you
What
actually
you
want.
want. Yeah, I've become accustomed I've become one of my coping mechanisms with my spending habits is to make a list. And if
Mhm.
it's not on my list, I don't get it. No matter how bad I tell myself I might actually need this item. I
Yep.
didn't need it at the time that I made that list, so I don't need it when I see it in the store.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so going with a list, going with an idea of the list is important because the idea, like, "Oh, I'm gonna get groceries." Well, there's a lot of things that fall under groceries that aren't necessities. And just being aware of those impulsive purchases and why. So I find myself doing a lot of, like, sweet treats, like, "Oh, I'm gonna, like, candy bars," or, "Oh, I'm gonna buy this, like, this a dozen donuts or something." And why? Because I deserve it, because I should treat myself. I've been working really hard.
But
Well,
do you deserve 1 or do you deserve
yeah,
12?
exactly. 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 And so it's catching those thoughts that we tell ourselves of why we
Mhm.
deserve it or why we buy it. And it's they usually follow you seeing it and it's like, "I shouldn't get this." There's, like, this instinct, like, you shouldn't get it. "I want it, well, but I shouldn't get it." And then almost immediately, your brain comes in to justify, and it's like, "Yeah, you do."
Yeah, you need this
Here's a reason for why you need it.
the other day you were this, that, and the third. Now you need it today. Well, you didn't have it the other day and you survived. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because we all have that item, the one that got away. The one item that we didn't buy and it got away from us. And it's almost like that haunts us. It's like, well, the last time I didn't buy this thing or an item, it wasn't there when I wanted it. And I
Well,
still,
that goes back to what I said earlier. If it's not there, check on Amazon.
yeah.
It'll be there.
But the thing is too, like, we don't recognize that on the flip side, if we did buy that item, we stopped looking for that item. So we
Yeah.
didn't know that the item didn't exist. It probably did, but we stopped looking. And so we have these fears and they're real. And I don't mean to laugh them off because they feel
No, no,
real.
no.
Normal.
Like I told you before, I think this is a dynamic topic. It's just that when you really look at it and you look at your own spending habits and you look at the things that you've bought on just out of impulse or just to be buying them, you have to laugh to prevent from crying because what you're saying is, hey, you need to really take a look at what you're doing because it's got more to do than just you needing this and you wanting this. This has got a lot to do with some things that are going on internally with you.
Yeah, for sure. For
So
sure.
let me ask you, how do you coach clients to build to build wealth over time while maintaining realistic goals?
So it's really empowering them with the skills to recognize their habits and to recognize their triggers. I do kind of a deep dive into what's your tipping point, the point at which it's the point of no return that you cannot, well, ironically, point of no return with sales. But it really is. It's like at some point it's as good as bought, because if for you, if it's scrolling on Amazon, then stay off Amazon. Then you need
Yes.
to, if you do have an item that you want, then type that item into Google, and if Amazon comes up, put it in your cart, buy it, and that's it. You don't need to
Yeah.
scroll to find it. And knowing that for me it was the find, it was what am I going to find. And so walking into stores is not the best for me, because I see it and it's like, oh, that's tempting. And so I can know that about myself and use that to my advantage and set myself up for success. And so really just recognizing what your tendencies are, and then setting yourself up for success. And so finding the method that works best for you, whether it's a cash envelope system, or it's loading money onto a gift card, or like a Fizz card that you earn credit, but it's not a credit card. And so there are ways to set yourself up for success. And that's really what I think is helpful, because a budgeting can seem very restricting. And
Mhm.
it's simply because you need to do a different type of budget that works better for you, so that you aren't tempted to overspend. You
Okay.
can set yourself up for success.
Now, you've said each step toward managing spending is a step toward becoming unshoppable.
Yes.
What are some small wins clients can celebrate as they start their journey?
Really, even if it's that you didn't buy the candy bar that you wanted, you put something back. You saw something, put it in your cart and put it back, or you added something to your cart and then left it in your cart. That's a win. That is a win, because you stopped that cycle of I see it, want it, get it.
Yeah.
But also, even if you're not there yet, recognizing, just looking at what you did purchase that was impulsive, and asking yourself why. That's a great place to start. Like, oh, I bought that candy bar. Getting curious, like, why did I buy that? Oh, I bought that makeup. Why did I buy that? Getting curious is so much better than getting critical. And because it's a launching off point rather than a stopping point.
Yeah. Now, your focus is on creating lasting change. How do you help clients stay motivated as they work towards long-term financial wellness?
Seeing the money that they are saving, I like I said, I'm not as concerned with how much they're spending. It's more the habits that we focus on, because a number can be very overwhelming. But I do eventually have them track the amounts that they're not spending, because that is super motivating to say, look how much I am saving that I can then put toward what I truly care about, my kids' college funds, an extra mortgage payment, whatever it is. That is motivating, because it gets you through those hard times of I'm not making any progress. Because when we have those lapses in spending and start to really spend again, we think, oh, I'm at square one. But you're
Mhm.
really not. You went back a step, but you've already learned so much. You're still on the staircase, you're still making forward momentum and forward progress. And seeing that you are making those changes, and that you have the tools to pick yourself back up and keep being unchoppable.
Okay. Now, what does financial peace mean to you on a deeper level?
Financial peace, I used to think was being able to afford all the things I wanted, like my heart's desires. Like, oh, I want the new house that has all the things and all the appliances. But it's really about being happy with what you have, and recognizing that that feeling that you get of, oh, I got the thing I wanted, is actually because you no longer want anything for a split second. You got what you wanted and you're perfectly content with what you have.
Mhm.
But then the brain goes, well, wait a second. No,
Mm-mm.
there's got to be something else.
I want more. I want
I
something
want
else.
more. And the happiness was
Yeah.
in the item. And it was like, no, it was actually, you were satisfied because you weren't wanting anything. and recognizing that the mind is always going to want something. It's always going to want something. And if you train it to want something and get it, want something and get it, by the time you get the thing, you're already wanting something. And so being happy and content with what you have. And I wrote an article about like a draft for contentment versus pleasure. And it's interesting. Contentment is actually a noun. It's a state of like being. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then pleasure is like a verb. You have to be doing things to achieve and feel pleasure. I was like, that is so interesting that we need to be doing things constantly to feel that pleasure, and contentment is actually not doing things. It's sitting and just living and not spending. So I think that's really interesting that it's like that contentment is within ourselves. It's not something you do, it's something that you become within yourself.
You obtain, yeah. All right. Well, this is my last question for you. If you could leave listeners with one piece of advice about becoming unshoppable, what would it be? And then I'd like for you to tell our listeners where they can find you.
Absolutely. I would say don't be so hard on yourself for the choices you've made, for the place you've gotten yourself. They're lessons that you are learning and you just simply haven't had the tools. But becoming unshoppable is really within your power. It really is. You have these heartfelt desires that you want to achieve in your life, and you have the power right now to become unshoppable. And I would just encourage you to find that motivation and desire to afford the life you want with the money you already have, and your life can be changed. And I invite you to follow me on all social media platforms. I'm found at Become Unshoppable, and we'll share the link to my website. And I would love for you to just join my community and be around women who are making those changes to become unshoppable.
Awesome. Yes, her website is going across the bottom of the screen, becomeunshoppable.com. So, Mary Ann, I just want to say thank you so much for being on this episode. And women, I told you she was going to get you in trouble. I told you. Now your husband going to come back to you and say, ma'am, what's going on with you and why are you buying so much? Yeah. Don't let him listen to this episode if you want to keep the credit card. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, you guys, again, Mary Ann, thank you so much. And if you want to see more of what Mary Ann has to say, also check her out. She's one of our featured speakers for the 10 Dimensions of Wellness Virtual Summit that's coming up on December the 14th. The link for tickets are going across the bottom of the screen. So I just want to encourage you to purchase your tickets because Mary Ann has a great presentation. Don't let your husband watch it though, or you're going to get in trouble. So, with that being said, you guys, this wraps up another episode of the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. I just want to thank you for joining us today. Thank you again to Mary Ann Stenquist for sharing her incredible story and her unique approach to financial wellness. You guys, her message reminds us that by understanding the emotional drivers behind our spending habits, we can take control of our finances and create lasting peace and sustainability. If you're ready to dive into Mary Ann's insight, be sure to check her out and her work at becomeunshoppable.com for more tools and guidance. And again, she'll be speaking at the 10 Dimensions of Wellness Virtual Summit. She's even got some great downloadables and free items for you to get as well. So make sure you register and get your ticket for that. And remember, your financial future is in your hands. Start taking those small but meaningful steps today. Thank you again for tuning in. If this episode resonated with you in any way, please do not forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe. Share it with someone who could also benefit from Mary Ann's wisdom. And until next time, stay mindful, stay empowered, and stay well. Take care, you guys, and I will see you next week.